Hi everyone, welcome to WordCamp Denmark. I'm going to do the presentation in English because, well, I don't speak well enough Danish to entertain all of you, so I'm going to do it in English. It's good enough. Just a little about me first. Oh yeah, name of the presentation is going to be about preparing the post-mobile UX. Who am I? My name is Kristoffe Biglete. I'm French. I've been living in Denmark for 5 years now. I've been working with WordPress for the past 9 years, I'd say, and now I work full-time in a company called Python Co, a digital company here in Denmark, and I'm working within a team that's working essentially with WordPress. So we're only working with WordPress as a work frame. Oh, and if you want to add me on Twitter and follow my awesome updates, please feel free. So how I started up with WordPress. I started 10 years ago, before I started developing on WordPress. I was a student in engineering school, and I wanted to share my awesome thoughts about life and teenage life with the world. So what I started to do is having an account, a blog on WordPress.org. All my thoughts, like a 16-year-old, were all disassembled, all over the place. So I wanted something that allow me to share that, to use content as a convey to actually say what I want to say. So it kind of became like this after a while, just creating content and essentially working with them. So I run my blog, and then I wanted to do something more. I wanted to have my own theme. I wanted to have my own design. I wanted to have new functionalities. So this is where WordPress came very, very handy, and I haven't let it away still. So why do I talk about that? It's because content within WordPress is the single most important thing for it, and it's going towards that. And WordPress as a content management system is very popular. It's the most popular one, actually, and it's a great barometer for UX trends, which is what I do now. I'm working mainly with front-end things, so following what new themes, what new trends are going on with the most popular theme on WordPress is a great way to follow what's going on in the design and the web design world. So, you have 58% of websites using a CMS that uses WordPress today. And for all of you that didn't know, it amounts to 25% of websites worldwide that uses WordPress. So that's a very neat marketing number that you can give when you start a project on WordPress. So as a barometer, WordPress follows all the new trends. It means that everything that came up very new and very shiny in web design across all platforms, it reflected in WordPress themes. So if you wanted, for the past few years, like parallax sliding, handmade design, mega footer, mega header, big sections, background photography, background video, everything was included within one theme or another in WordPress. And you could just follow that, and you could use it in your own projects. So all that said, was that actually post-mobile means? So it was a term that was coined by a guy called Mike Murphy, which I read something online about post-mobile. It means that this is basically, as a web designer, what we are dealing with. It's different views for desktop, for tablet, for mobile, for different breakpoints and everything like that. But all of that is coming soon to kind of not an end, but a new evolution when there's so many more different multi-channel level that we will be able to use data for. So Apple Watch, your new car will be connected soon, your dog that can talk to you with WordPress content or something like that. So anything that you can think of will come soon, and you have to be prepared for that. So all the things that, all the theming, all the layering, all the bare CSS or bare jQuery that you use for interaction or anything on WordPress will come not to an end, but it will just be a small part of it. So how is it right now? How does it work? Right now, the big thing is working with different layouts. It's working with breakdowns. It's working with the flow information of boxes, of content grids. So you have fluid design that's respecting proportions within all the layouts. You have responsive, which you all know that just break down everything into one another. And then you have adaptive design, which just you adapt whatever content you want to show, depending on what channel you want to use it. So what do we use right now? What do I use, or what people use? You have a lot of out-of-the-box, almost, framework, like Bootstrap, like Foundation, or Skeleton. Those are the three main ones. I use only to work with Bootstrap and Foundation. And those are being very popular for the past years because, well, it's easy. For companies or for developers, it's easier to get something from the get-go. And it's easy to learn something from a framework that you know the language of. So you don't have to create new apps, learn new languages, learn new platforms. And also because, well, it's cheap and easy as well. So the cycles of development are faster, generally. It's way shorter than developing a new app, developing new functionalities that adds up on the channel that you want to use. And also because of business priorities. Well, when you're in a company, then you want a developer that works fast and that works within other developers, and you don't need like new app, new things, new custom development. So you can include all the responsive, adaptive design that you want for a single website, so you don't have to have several kind of content. So it all boils down to then several questions, which are mobile first, desktop first. So should we first think about the layout from the mobile and then expand it to a full view desktop? Or should I take if I'm a designer, I want just big shiny design and then break it down and hide stuff. And then you have, if you detect the layouts or the content depending on directly from the browser and then deliver to the browser, if you want the content to be channeled through the server and then deliver the specific channel to the browser, or if you detect everything from the browser and then scale it down, scale it up, or anything like that. But all of it is kind of irrelevant for me at some point, or for me, or for most of web designer. What got me into WordPress is that line that they use as a tagline is like, the code is poetry. And it's even more relevant now that the UX part is kind of differentiated from all the markup and the content things. So if you take out all the channeling of design, you can have, you can just keep everything that, like the markup, how you structure your code in a template, and you create a story. In a WordCamp in Sevilla this year, there was this woman talking about accessibility, and she was saying that basically you construct a story with your templates, what you're templating. So H1, the title tag is your title. It makes sense. It's meant to be a title. And then you have section and then articles. It makes sense. It's a story. So it's not just code just to be pretty. It's also because it serves a purpose. So in terms of design, how it applies here, it's that we're going to come to a point where you'll have several contents. You'll have multi-channel. You will have to follow up on that. It's not only going to be mobile. It's not going to be only desktop or tablet. There will be so many things that we're just at the beginning of that we don't know yet, and we have to follow that. And design is also about, it's a different way, but all those channels, all those different designs, all those timelines will be just, it will all boil to what kind of content you want to share with your end user, how much experience will matter depending across on all channel. So you'll have different channel. It can be different design. It can be just plain text. It can be 3D, something that plays in a theater. But the content needs to be the same all across. And yeah, so I'll go on with it. So how does it work now? One of the main thing that came up with responsive and why it's like mainly used now to create multi-browser, cross-browser channel layouts is also the rise of flat design, which is something that I really like, but we're getting also to an end of it. So basically, this is your browser. You can just play with it. You want a fixed menu. You want a logo. You want a burger icon. You want a big statement that I took from Goldman Sachs, whatever that means. And then you want a kick-ass background and something like that. And then you have a theme, and you can sell it on Theme Forest and go to retreat somewhere and do nothing for your life. But this is not the end. This is what's going on for the past 5 years in web design. This looks good. This looks great. And if we take, for example, a look at some of the WordPress sites that are nominated for this year's, so you have something like FCN. So basically you have header, flat design, big picture, big statement. You have something like a Mayday film, big statement, flat design, burger icon. And you have Pinoise, flat design, big statement, fixed menu on top. And not to diss on everything, but these are my design, so it's like, I followed that because it's nice, it's easy, and it's not easy actually, it's easy to look at. It's not busy, and it's fine, but it won't be fine forever. And if you follow like the big players, like the really big thinkers about design, you have Google and Apple, who responded by flat design by using pseudo-skeuomorphism, which is a fancy word to say that it's flat, but not really. So you have the Gmail icon, which has folds and has shadows on it. You have the wallet of Apple that they use for iOS 9 that has shadows and some depth in it. So they're trying to put the flat design on another level. But there's also another direction that comes with it. It's that flat design and responsive design led to choose abstract over aesthetics. So there was a lot of influences. Oh, too soon? Yeah, a lot of influences about the Swiss and Bauhaus design from the early 20s, where geometry and font will just matter mostly more than the content itself. And it's good because it focuses on content, but sometimes it's way too abstract. So you'll have a lot of sites right now where it's pretty, but it's empty because it's too abstract. And wherever we're going now is like, as a web designer, I love content, but I also love experience. And I think having great experience on a website is having both of them. So you shouldn't just think about something that's pretty and skip all the content on it. So if we take a look, for example, at WordPress, which was stated as a great barometer for web design and how they use content, we'll just take a quick look at how they used their main theme that came out of the box with WordPress. So we have 2012, if you remember it. So you have a big header, content, sidebar. It was pretty straightforward. It was in 2012. Everybody did that. Then you have 2013. So this was like weird experiment with colors, and the sidebar just basically disappeared like in the bottom. So it was the beginning of trying to make everything responsive, so you just have big content. You have 2014, which was even weirder, I think. It didn't really make sense. The layout was a bit off the place, but it still worked, and it was customizable. You have everything in place still, so the sidebar is back, which is a good sign. This year's, which was really app-like, with a fixed menu on the side, with a logo that will always be there, and then the scrolling content. And that falls back to the 2016, that will be released in December with the 404, which is kind of not weirdly enough, exactly the same layout than 2012. So after experimenting a lot, WordPress, but WordPress decided that it should accentuate its focus on content, which makes sense, because there's also, so this is what it will look like in the end. So with the new release, you will have this standard theme, which is very bare, with the most content in it will be just very easy to customize. And this is something that will come with a new exciting feature, which is the REST API, which I don't know if some of you have already heard about it. But basically, what it does is that the browser or any API or any the model is you have all the calls that can be made from browsers, from computers, from external applications that will call the REST API, and then we'll get a response and we'll interact with the content of WordPress. If it's a bit abstract, it's kind of normal, but we're going to come to an example. There was this project on GitHub that I found, is a guy that recreated the 2016 WordPress theme using the REST API and React framework, JavaScript framework. So basically, he just skipped all the theming and using only the REST API to get all the content and recreated a new theme with a brand new framework. So he's totally skipped down the theming, the basic theming of WordPress, to recreate his own. So this is a great example of what can be done, for example. It's like you can just recreate anything and get information from WordPress. So here is just getting information and taking like posts and information about the website. But he could, with the REST API, we can post things, we can insert things in the database, we can play with them, we can work with the data to recreate something within the framework that we designed. So what does it mean? It's not only something that's fashionable and that's that is very easy to use. It's also because, well, as of today, 30% of e-commerce transactions happens on mobile, which has doubled since the past 5 years. So it's very significant on how people are using website and how they value user experience on different channels. By 2020, it was projected that every person will have 4.3 connected objects. I can see 4, the 0.3 will be still to be decided. But it means that you will have more and more different kind of channels where you can see the content. And of course, the big evolution is like this year, or it was past year's number, 51% of the time spent with digital media on mobile outweighed the desktop view. So, and by mobile, you can take everything. It was tablet, it was mobile, it was something from a small screen or anything you can think about. So it's taking over slowly. The way that we see website on the desktop is evolving a lot. So one of the applications that we can think about, I will take the example of this small startup, French startup, because the founder that I was in school with me, and we discussed about it a little bit. So what he does is he's taking data from Facebook and he creates connected objects. So this one is for like companies that want to buy this small box, like very retro, and count the number of likes in your Facebook page. And it has this rotational thing, so very, very mechanical. But it still takes stuff from data online. So if you think about how WordPress is going and how we dissociate the data from the actual design, we could think about application like the Apple Watch or Google Glasses or, for example, something that will evolve from Siri, like there's a podcasting talk right now at the same time in the other track. So you can think of a voice that will talk about your post or your latest content to make a new layout or create a new podcast that's dedicated to whatever target you have. Yeah, and of course, well, Matt Mullenweg, the founder of WordPress, said this very, I think, very self-explanatory explanation that I think that we'll see a lot of more specialized interfaces built on WordPress as like a content kernel, an engine powering a wide array of application and interfaces you'd never imagine having WordPress behind them today. And this is true. It's like we still don't know what are the intricacies of it and what is the potential of having the content so having its focus on its own for the first time again since the beginning of WordPress. We've all focused on theming, on design, on UX trends, that now we have to think about UX within the different channels that we're going to use. It's not only going to be desktop. There are people who are already telling that, yeah, desktop view is definitely obsolete, that we will never use a layout like that again. It's too soon. People will still use desktop, people will still use browsers, but they will also use all their connected objects that they will have with them. So we have to prepare for that, to be able to rise to the challenge that technology, that WordPress technology will offer to us, is to be able to use WordPress as an admin and a data handler. So I had this, we'll skip that. So this was, it was a stupid joke. Because basically what it allows us to do is to have fun with content and to be prepared to do anything with that. So if we hear anything.
Yeah, we don't want nobody telling us what to do. We don't want nobody pushing us around.
Oh, it doesn't play here.
I apologize. But tell me.
Oh, it's okay.
Just what is it that you want to do?
Well, we want to be free. We want to be free to do what we want to do. We want to be free to ride. We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded. And we want to have a good time. And that's what we're going to do.
Well, wait, baby, let's go.
We're going to have a good time.
So yeah, we're gonna have a good time playing with all those things. It was a bit off, sorry about that. But the idea is having fun and experimenting. Now again, we can take over the content and rethink about content and user experience and not be frustrated by the technology and just be scaled down to desktop, to mobile, and to tablet. pretty soon we'll have so many things that we will be able to design that we have to think about it and prepare about it. Thank you.
So thank you, Kristoffe. Are there any questions?
Was that Easy Rider?
Yes, no, it was not Easy Rider. It was what was the name of the movie? It was like a B movie. It was quoted in a song of Primal Scream. This is how I know it. I've never seen the movie, but the quote is fun.
So it was not Peter Fonda.
Sorry?
So it was not Peter Fonda.
No.
Anyone else? Well then, thank you, Kristoffe.
Yeah, there's a
Sorry.
question. Oh.
Can you explain more about the rest?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, maybe I can go back so you can see the slides again. Yeah. So REST API is going to be able, so you can basically how it will work is like you can create endpoints, like you can create a JSON response where you will have all the content that you have in WordPress. So if you're like an administrator or a creator of website in WordPress, you can create data that you wanna get. If you think of the new post, for example, before, if you wanted to have the latest posts of one website to another one, like a main website, and then you have a smaller website on WordPress, then it was kind of annoying to have the content of the small WordPress site to like another one. So now you just have to make a call to the WordPress site, and it will return you raw content that you will be able to play with any way you want. You can, for example, create also a form that will, in the main site, where you can have new users to be registered and have them registered directly in the WordPress site just by making a call. So it's like really abstracting the data and not having to play with different contents, different database or anything. So this will come in new WordPress core in 4.4 in December.
Hey. Hi,
Yeah.
Kristoffe.
Hi.
I was just sort of wondering, like if we're saying that it's not just screens that are going to get content from WordPress, let's say it's something completely different. All these objects connected and pulling information from WordPress and using that information for something. Does that mean that, like, as a web designer or as a web agency, that we're going to have to have a challenge because we're going to have to suddenly test on all these objects? We're going to end up with loads of objects in our office, and that doesn't add a lot of complexity. How do you see that, like, the same company would do all of that kind of stuff, or do you see it like as a more of a distributed thing that these things would be built?
No, I think it's going to be, you have to focus. It needs to have purpose as well. The content doesn't need to be, for example, on a watch. If you're a magazine online, nobody will ever read content on his watch. But for example, like news on the fridge or news like in your door before leaving, just so you have an overview, or I don't know, some stuff that are already on it. But for an agency or for professionals, you still need to channel the mediums that you're going to use in order to get the best of your content. Like not all companies will work with mobile applications and will only work with responsive design because they're not doing that, or because of business issues. So it still needs to be assessed. It's a strategy still that you need to first apply to the content or the message that you wanna share across all the platforms that you're going to use. Yes.
And just while we're at rest, I have another one about that. It's like we are just starting grasping what is actually possible to get out of this system, and I think it will drastically probably change our way of thinking about WordPress also. But I'm not quite sure where the most important features will lie. Can you perhaps point us in that direction? Is it we had RSS feeds for a long time, so it has been easy to get stuff out of WordPress, so to speak, that way. But so I suppose, am I right in assuming that the main change will be getting data into WordPress?
Also,
instead?
yeah. Well, I haven't been working a lot of it. I just saw the potential on it, but it's also that using REST technology is safer, easier, and faster than what we used. WordPress used to have before. It's true that they already had ways of sharing content across platforms by going out of WordPress, like RSS feeds or something. But it was not. XML format is like just a nightmare to work with. So I guess at least with the REST API, it's easier, and you can also put content in it. But I think it comes also at the right time, because now we have all these connected objects that will just take over, not take over, but rise and rise. When before it was mainly website and maybe mobile view. So I think both are going at the same direction. It's probably just a matter of good timing, I guess.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
So I think this about the REST API, it's like a technical upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I'll just. This about the REST API is a technical upgrade of the engine, but how do we prepare the designers for this new stuff? I guess that they have to change their mind.
Exactly.
Also.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments there?
Yeah, I think what came to my mind is that we all use now just design and responsive as an end answer, that as a web design or as a website, it just should have a desktop view, and then it should be visible on mobile. And that responsive was because it was easy and because it was implementable from the get-go, and that many developers didn't have to just learn a new language, that it's definite, and that, okay, so we'll just do responsive forever. But we already see the limitation on that. So I guess we're taking a stretch by going to other channels. But even like in web design, like the traditional way that we're using now with desktop and mobile, it's already getting boring or misused. Like all the flat design, all the all the webs and all the frameworks, all the websites starts looking the same, and we're not getting the user experience as good as we should, just because it's easier to do it. But now we're getting challenged not by our own limitation, but also because the technology is evolving. So we're forced to actually take the step forward and try to get there.
Thank you, Kristoffe.
Thank you.